Hello and welcome to the first episode of Found It Fetched It for 2026. My name is Jo Parrott, I'm the founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group and I'm so pleased to be here with you. I hope you've had a fantastic Christmas and an amazing new year, and I'm so glad to have you back with me. So in this episode, I want to talk to you about something I think that we all go through. I want to talk to you about why capable handlers still feel stuck. So I can remember being out with my dog right at the start of my sort of dog training journey and doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing and feeling like I was constantly completely on the back foot. Like I wasn't failing, my dog was doing what it was meant to be doing, sort of, and I wasn't sort of falling apart. I think I was just second guessing everything because we say this to our members all the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. So the dog running around in front of me, I had no idea what it was actually meant to look like, if that makes sense. So like, when was it meant to be doing the things a pet gun dog should do? So I'd come home from training days or conversations with like other people, and I'd feel like everyone else had a language I hadn't quite learned yet. Like they knew what they were looking for, they knew what mattered, they knew what came next. And I was like piecing it together from scraps, from instinct, from watching my father train and being like, is that important? Why is that important? And I knew I was developing habits where I was putting things into my training with no idea why they needed to be in there. The frustrating thing was I wasn't new to dogs. I'd grown up around them. I'd been dragged out hunting by my dad in all weather. I'd learned by watching, feeling, paying attention. And dogs sort of made sense to me in my body, but I didn't have sort of the tidy words for what I was wanting to do. But the moment I tried to make my training sort of formal, judged, spoken about loudly and confidently, I really started to doubt myself. You know, bringing up your own pet dog, wherever that might be, is not the same, I don't believe, as creating a pet gun dog that you intend to take out on an estate, on a shoot, because you know there's going to come a judgment with that of how good is your dog. I don't think this happens when you go through the country park with your dog. Nobody's looking at your dog and saying, how good is that dog? Is that dog obedient? Like, to a certain extent, nobody cares. But the moment it became formal, I think I lost my nerve quite a lot. Not because I couldn't do it, but like because I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the map. I was trying to translate what I could see my father doing into rules. I was trying to work out from instinct what the techniques were and why they were that way. There was no one really saying to me, this is how these pieces fit together. That gave me a sense of being behind for far longer than I should have felt. And not because it was true, but because no one ever named what was actually missing for me. No one said, you know, this is what your overall aim is, because a finished gun dog, for want of better words, is different for different people. A finished trialing gun dog is very, very different to a finished working gun dog in the level of accuracy, the level of control, and I didn't really know what it was that I was trying to create. So today I want to talk about that because I see it all the time now. Women who are absolutely capable, observant, committed, doing the work, but still absolutely feeling like they're winging it. And I still see them wondering why it feels harder than it looks for everyone else. And I think a lot of what we do as women is very much based around how we feel. It's not a confidence problem per se. It might be from the dogs. It could be a confidence problem from somewhere else in our minds, from somewhere else in our experiences. And it's not an effort problem. It's absolutely a structure problem. We are not understanding what comes next, why. Once you have the map, everything starts to settle. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today and sort of like take apart some of the sort of misconceptions that you are using that are then causing further issues. So one of the ones that I see quite a lot of are, if I were better, this would be easier. People think that other people seem to get it quicker, or that they shouldn't still be asking this. They've has to ask 15 times how to get something right. And there's a sense that we are missing something obvious. What's happening here really is we are interpreting missing structure as missing ability. And that's absolutely not true. We need to move from self-doubt to self-trust with this and say, instead of, am I doing this right, to, I know how to read what's happening here and I know how to adjust. Because that gives us quicker decisions, better handling, and less mental noise. A lot of where we struggle, I think, with gun dogs is the mental noise around what we are doing. Another thing that I see and is very common within our membership is I need to be more confident before I can train and lead my dog. And it's like a complete misconception. It's really saying I'll step into it properly when I feel more sure. I don't want to mess this up. I need to watch a bit more first. But the reality of it is that the confidence doesn't really come until we take the action steps. The action has to come first. So we think confidence comes before action, instead of knowing that the confidence is going to come from clarity, from repetition, from working with our dogs. We need to go from this sense of guessing to having a map, from reacting in the moment to know what to do next, even when it all looks like it's a bit chaotic for us. Having a success plan, like our members when they join get success steps completely mapped out. Checklist for foundation, checklist for novice, checklist for intermediate, checklist for advanced. Knowing exactly what to expect, what's the baseline at each level. And I think for a lot of people, you need to have this map mapped out for you, because this gives you momentum, it gives you consistency. And one of the biggest things it gives you is relief. And what I mean it gives you relief is it gives you relief from all that mental noise we were just talking about, because you don't have to be thinking, oh, what am I missing? You're not missing anything. It's planned out for you. Another misconception you see throughout gun dogs is, if I do this wrong once, I will ruin everything. And it's totally wrong. We think it's like one strike with our dogs, and then if you get it wrong on that one strike, you will make such a mess, you will never put that dog back right. And that's totally not true. It comes from us not wanting to confuse the dog and being scared of creating really bad habits for them. But that means we wait until we're certain. And in that waiting, the dog is getting older, getting a little bit more unreliable in his behaviour, because nobody's sort of setting the plan for them. We are overestimating the damage and underestimating recovery of the dogs. And it's something we've talked about in other podcasts. You don't need to do this. So you've got to move from waiting for confidence to leading any way you can. And that is going to change as you learn more. But you can't keep on holding back until you feel ready, because you're not going to get ready until you step forward. You need to act steadily and let the confidence flow from you taking those steps forward. If you approach it in this way, you will find you get a dog that responds quicker, learns faster, can be calm in the house and in the field or in the coffee shop, and when you get a dummy out. But that comes with time. Instead of you waiting for confidence, you've got to lead from the beginning, and that's what gives you a stronger partnership. I think without doubt, one of the things we see is people saying, my dog doesn't listen to me, does listen to my husband or my other half. And I think that's a case of this tendency to step into the role of leader, even when they don't know anything or they know very little. And the dog does, without doubt, respond to that. And that's not because they're a guy, it's just because they step into the action. And we need to step into the action too as well. We tend to tell ourselves good handlers don't struggle like we are. But that's an absolute lie again. Everyone else will always look steadier to you. Unless the dog's like pegging a bird or doing something really naughty, they will still look steadier than you, because we ask our brains to show us stuff that isn't always the truth, just stuff that backs up what we think. So we look and we think, oh, they did that beautifully, and we forget the 3 things before that they didn't do so well. We always tell ourselves we are behind, that we should be further on by now, and that's a complete misconception. You and your dog will move at the speed that you are meant to, as long as you don't keep telling yourself these mistruths. You mustn't compare your sort of inside world, what's going on in your thoughts, what's going on in your mind, what's going on when it's just you and your dog, with other people's edited outside. We say this over and over again. People show us what they want to show us. They certainly don't tell us what they're thinking. Because I'm sure for a lot of people who, even in a group setting, live with us, who look like they've got their dog totally under control, are still having this sort of internal dialogue where they are worried about how the dog looks to you, to the Joe blogs, to everybody else. We've got to stop personalising problems and start reading patterns. We've got to start moving from this is my fault to this behaviour that my dog is giving me makes sense given what's happened. And what I mean for that is like an example. You may have a dog that is really good one-to-one, but is not used to a group setting. I'll give you an example of this. My dog Buddy, I could do anything with him. He was the most steadiest little lad ever. And I went to train with my uncle, and my uncle said, will you run in if I throw a dummy? And I said, no. And my uncle threw the dummy, and the dog flew in, and I mean flew in. And my uncle turned to me and said, the answer to that question was yes. And I'm like, but no, he doesn't do that. But I hadn't allowed for the fact that he'd never been in that situation before, with 5 other gun dogs sitting to his left in really close proximity, training on a bank, all these things going on, and he just didn't know how he was meant to respond in that environment. So we really do need to work on this so that we understand the behaviour can be from the environment, and our experts tell you all this stuff. I don't need to tell you this stuff, but I want you to think about the fact that if you work through this and start reading the patterns of your dog, it will give you better timing to know when to reward, when to constructively correct. It'll give you less emotional spiraling, and you want to see less in that in 2026, I'm sure, and that'll give you faster progress. This sort of like up and down our feelings can be a huge barrier to how fast we see the results we want to see with our dog. The last thing I want to sort of talk to you about in this episode is if I need help, I'm failing. It's such a misconception and such a lie. You were not given a handbook with your dog when they were given to you. They didn't say to you, right, well, here's the, Gundog book for Arthur. This is exactly what Arthur wants. And I say Arthur because Arthur's my pup. Arthur is very, very different to Rex, my older dog. Really, if there were going to be handbooks given out, they would need to be individual learning plans for both dogs. So we can read as many books as we want, we can do loads of stuff, but we do need to bring into this the idea of every single dog is different. It's not a case of if you need help, you are like doing it wrong or you're failing. You shouldn't be thinking things like, I should be able to handle this. Like, that's a total misconception. I don't want to be a nuisance. You're not a nuisance asking for help. Thinking things to yourself or saying them out loud like, I don't want to look silly. You're not going to look silly asking for help. We all need help to train the dog in front of us because they're all very different to the dog we had last or the situation we had. If this was like our third dog, this third dog might be very, very different from the first two. If it's our first gun dog, again, you are in a situation where you're probably mind blown because they are so different to a normal dog, a normal pet dog. They learn very much the same things. We teach them very much the same things, like sit and settle and, come. We teach them all those things. And you might think, well, that's exactly like a pet dog. It is, but we talk about this a lot, and we're going to be talking about this in the end of the month in a free masterclass. You have a supercar on a shoestring, and your way of teaching is going to have to be very different and set for exactly what you're dealing with. You wouldn't teach a learner driver in a Fiat Panda the same as you would in a Ferrari, which is where your lady who registered for the masterclass that's free wrote it. And I thought, what a beautiful way to explain it. When you think, if I need help, I'm failing, what you're doing is you're equating independence with isolation. You're equating independence with isolation, and they are not the same thing. You can be independent within a community where you need help. That, in fact, I think is independence because it means you've sought out support, you've sought out others who probably can speed up your journey, because they do actually have chapters, paragraphs of this individual learning plan, this user manual that you're trying to put together. So asking for help is a form of independence that you should actively strive to do with your gun dog. Because quietly coping is never going to give you the results that you want. Quietly coping is actually not coping at all. You need supported progression. You don't want to be handling everything alone. You want to be using support without feeling shame. And shame, I think, is something that women attach to lots of the times that they ask for help, like it's a bad thing, but it's absolutely not. What asking for help will give you is stronger follow through. It means you'll see results far faster than you thought you would. It'll give you fewer plateaus, because when you get to a point where you think, I'm not going forward, I'm not going back, you can say, what is this plateau? Is this something I'm doing? Is there part of the jigsaw that I'm missing? Is this something to do with the dog's age? Is this something to do with the dog's environment? You can ask questions and get all the support you need. And it can mean enjoying it again, because there is nothing worse than being isolated with a young gun dog where you don't know why it's going wrong, but it is, and the gun dog not being able to tell you why it's going wrong. You know, that is a situation where people tend to almost live in a heartbreak hotel, for want of a better word, because the relationship just starts falling apart, and we don't want that for you. You don't want that for you. The bit that we need for you to take away from the podcast today is stop seeing yourself as someone who's always catching up. Start seeing yourself as a capable handler who knows how to steady themselves and their dog. Turn this into a pivotal moment in 2026 where you start changing the negative terminology for more positive terminology. When you find yourself saying things like, I can't do this, look for the evidence in that. Look for the truth in that. And I promise you that it isn't there. It's a case of, I need to learn how to take this next step with my dog. So I hope you've enjoyed this first podcast of 2026. Please let me know. Please send me some DMs. We're on Instagram at Ladies Working Dogs, or you can send it directly to me at Joe Parrott. You know, let us know where you are struggling, where we can help you in 2026. We say this all the time. Our experts are amazing. We've brought on board a new expert now as well. We've got a self-defense expert to help ladies who are out with their dogs, feeling unsafe in the environment, feeling unsafe in the winter months. Her name is Charlotte Mail. She's in the team now. We really have everything that you need to move forward. All your mindset coaches, all your sort of confidence coaches, and of course, our unbelievable behavioural experts who will help you to train the dog in front of you. If you want to join us for the event that we've got going on at the end of the month, it's going to be happening on Thursday, the 29th. If you want to join us for Holding a Supercar by a Shoestring, the free masterclass for owners of high drive dogs, where we're going to talk about how to finally speak gun dog, even if you never plan on seeing a shooting field, just sign up with us. It's going to be on January 29th, 2026 at 7:30. The best way to get the link is to literally go along to our website, www.thelwdg.com, and at the top it says free training. Click on that and that will take you to the page to register so that you get all the information. Or you can go onto Instagram, on any post, type shoestring, and that will send you a link so that you can find us that way and you can register that way. I hope you've enjoyed. We look forward to seeing you in a fortnight's time to discuss some more gun dog amazing topics. And until then, keep smiling, keep learning. If you take nothing else from today, take this. If you've been feeling behind, unsure, or like you're always catching up, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means you've been handling, like I said, without that map. Once you name that, the self-blame will ease. You can stop personalising every time it goes wrong and start seeing what's actually happening in front of you. Your dog's behaviour will make way more sense. Your decisions to get quieter and clearer. You stop waiting to feel confident, start leading the way. And that's when things will shift for you. It's not because you're going to suddenly become an amazing expert trainer. It's because you will finally have a structure and support that you need to become who you already know you are. Next time you're out there, lead in hand, brain going mad, wondering if you should know this by now, just remind yourself you are with a whole community of people who feel exactly the same way, and you're allowed to do that, and we're all here to support one another. If this episode landed, sit with it for a bit, notice where you've been guessing, notice where a little clarity would change everything, and let that be enough for now. We shall see you next time.